Hi and welcome to the Zero Fox Club podcast, hosted by myself, Katie, and Linda.
I'm Linda, and for over 30 years, I've been living with no hair.
I'm Katie, and I live with metastatic breast cancer, and I am learning to live with one boob.
Between us, we've let go of other people's opinions and put our own selves first.
Join us each week for a boost of confidence, empowerment, and motivation to put on your crown and remember who the fuck you are.
Morning, Katie.
Good morning.
Welcome to our very first episode of this podcast.
Yes, we are so happy that you are here with us. And I guess this first episode's a bit of just a conversation of what this is all about.
Well, it's an introduction as well. Who the hell are these two women? Who are they? Who is she?
Why are we so interesting?
Who wants to listen to them two rabbiting on?
Absolutely. So I don't know. Do you want to go first?
Well, I think the reason that we're here is because we've both been through some fairly traumatic shit in our lives, would you say, Katie?
Yeah, and you know, everyone's got a story, haven't they? But this is kind of ours and what has come of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And when we first met each other, about 10 years ago, we had at the time, I was living with my secret. I don't know if you were aware of my secret at the time, Katie.
No. I wasn't.
Isn't that funny? And of course, your crap was yet to come, wasn't it?
Yeah, we've kind of all gone through that the last few years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. So, should we first reveal what your secret is?
Well, yes. For the last 30 years, I've been living with no hair. And for a lot of those 30 years, I kept it a really, like a dirty secret. I couldn't tell anyone. I didn't know how to tell anyone, and I didn't want to tell anyone. So, yeah, that was something I lived with for a long time. I had alopecia. I lost all my hair when I was 22. And I basically spent 30 years covering it up, dreading somebody finding out.
I mean, I literally cannot even understand, obviously being a wig wearer myself for a very short period of time, but I just don't know how you manage to keep that up and to keep it like so hidden from people. It must have felt like part of your identity was...
Yeah, I think it's like anything. You learn to adapt, you learn to live with something, you accept this is my life now, and if I want to lead a normal life, this is the cover that I have to use. And only a select few people really knew. Because I had to feel sort of comfortable, and not the sort of conversation you can bring up with everyone either. So that's a little bit about me and why I'm here, because in the last 6 months, I've really learned to change that and actually think I don't want to live like that anymore. And I want to actually start living my life properly, how I really am. Which is scary, but God, it's so liberating when you do it.
I can only imagine. Yeah, absolutely. And as a friend, like, I'm so proud of you for doing that, because the change in you, and also you're helping other people, which is massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be able to go through a trauma like that, and then for something good to come out of it, you know, you're supporting others, which is absolutely fantastic.
But apart from all of that and helping and bringing awareness, it's, for me, the biggest payoff is how it's changed my life. So coming to you though, Katie, because as I said before, when we first met, the two of us had no idea where that path was going to take us and on what you would have to deal with in your life. And I always feel, well, what I had to cope with was pretty shit, but I can't even begin to imagine the impact that your diagnosis has had on your life.
Yeah. I mean, I do always say, like, we've all got stuff going on, and you know, it's not a competition of whose is worse or whatever. But yeah, I mean, so I got diagnosed originally. It's coming up 3 years, which is just insane. So March 2020, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. I'll give you a very quick whistle-stop tour rather than going right into it. But yeah, primary diagnosis, and had all my treatments, so chemo, radiotherapy, immunotherapy, radiotherapy. Did I say that already? But yeah, anyway, I did all of that. was told to then go off and live my life, which I tried to kind of rebuild my life, quite frankly. And then in June last year, I had a seizure whilst out running, and I got diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, which basically means stage 4, incurable. You'll hear the terminology can change, but it all means the same thing, and that is that I will die of breast cancer. My timeline has kind of been put in front of me. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And I guess the zero fuck stuff all came because of that diagnosis. So yes, it's shit. Yes, it's really hard. Yes, there's so much trauma around that. And obviously I know as we go through episodes, that will probably all come up and we'll talk a lot more about both of our stories. But really this time we wanted to kind of talk more about where Zero Fucks Club came from and like why we are talking about that. Because for me, and I know for you, these things that have happened to us have completely changed us. So from your point of view, like what has changed for you? Where is this zero fuck stuff coming from for you?
It was just having to live with this. And it really felt like it was a weight on my shoulder that I couldn't completely be myself. I had to, check before I opened the door. I had to, before I met anyone, I had to make sure my wig was on and all that panic about, will they know? Do they know? Is anyone just second guessing myself all the time? And it's a lot to have to live with, especially if you are dealing with day-to-day work, day-to-day life stresses, everything that happens day-to-day, you've got to deal with that. Oh, and on top of that, you've got to make sure your wig's on straight and that there's no telltale signs, and you just can't relax. And I know when we spoke about this, because we talked about when I first met you 10 years ago, and I didn't realise it at the time because I just seen this really confident, bolshy woman who was like right into things, up for a laugh, didn't give a toss. What I thought didn't give a toss. So when you said to me, I was always so worried about my appearance, and that was real news to me. And isn't it funny how I was keeping a secret from you, and you were obviously keeping this secret from, we do as women. Yeah. We put up a front.
Yeah.
We this is our data, this is our public face.
Yeah.
And in behind it, shit, it's something completely different.
I kind of feel like that analogy of like the duck, or the swan, isn't it? Like looking perfect and serene on the top, but actually underneath is like, oh my God. But yeah, I really struggled with my appearance, was always a huge thing, especially my weight. And I sit here 5 stone heavier than I've ever been. And actually, I mean, I'm not saying that I love that about myself, but I much more accept myself. I'm not talking to myself in the same way that I was previously. And so for me, that was definitely a lot of where this zero Fs came from, because I was like, I'm no longer going to prescribe to the world's view of what I should look like. And even when I've had like close people to me say things like, oh, should you start, thinking about losing weight, etc. I now no longer listen to that, and I'm much more about how I'm feeling about myself.
It is hard to switch off that part of your brain that almost always goes there, that voice inside that says, I must look a certain way, I must be a certain way. And I'm assuming because you were going through so much other shit in your life, something had to give. And if you had to let go of public opinion on how you were looking while you dealt with the crap that was going on, because I'll never forget the time you put the photograph on social media of your mastectomy scars.
Yeah.
And that was just, and to me, that was the first time I put a photograph on social media of myself bald.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a scary feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because, again, I know that we'll probably talk about this in the future, but social media for me has definitely been a bit of a solace. Like, I remember Lizzie England is someone who's massive in the breast cancer community, and she was young, had 2 small children, so I could really relate to her. She was flat one side, and when I had my mastectomy, I couldn't have reconstruction at the same time because of COVID. So it was always something that I wished I had done, but I couldn't have had it done at the time. So I kind of had to, learn how to just accept that that's what it was. And actually, what was really funny was that I was so worried about what I looked like and was talking to myself like absolute rubbish about, I'm so fat, I'm disgusting, I'm this, I'm that. And actually, when I had the surgery, I woke up and I thought, I'm going to literally hate myself. I'm going to look in that mirror and I'm going to detest what I saw. And the opposite happened. I looked in that mirror and I was like, fucking hell, girl. I was so proud of myself. I was so proud of my scar. And that's why I showed it, because I was like, I've just been through one of the biggest battles that I'm ever going to, then I realised another one was coming, but at the time.
You think that's bad? There's more shit down the road. But this is where we're all very different, aren't we? And how you coped and what you thought and what you seen when you looked in the mirror. There are many women out there that would completely crumble.
Yeah.
And I felt like that too.
Understandably so as well.
It's taken me 30 years to actually learn to love my bald head and what I looked like bald, because before I couldn't have mirrors in the house. I had to put my wig on just to do my makeup because I couldn't look at myself bald because it just looks so ugly. And it's really hard when you look at yourself and all you can see is ugliness. Yeah. And so you imagine, well, that's what I think of me, what are total strangers going to think of me?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there must be a lot of people out there. And I know from the groups that I'm on around alopecia and support groups, that there are still so many women who cannot bear to look at themselves in the mirror with no hair. So I feel really proud of me that I've come this far. Then it's taken me 30 years to come this far. Yeah. And for you, Katie, to be able to look at yourself, that's such a short time to have to get your head around what you look like. Yeah. Where do you think that resilience in you comes from, and that part of you? Or did it come from anywhere, or is it just something that you...
I think I've done a lot of therapy and a lot of work on myself. So during the time that I had my primary diagnosis, was told that I was going to be okay and I'm free of cancer, I retrained as a life coach. And I think that training definitely helped with... especially my mindset now and things like that. Thoughts are so powerful. So yeah, I think I've done a lot of work on myself to get to where I am. But also I surround myself with, amazing people like yourself.
Yeah. And I think we talked about social media earlier, and it was following people on social media who had the same condition as me that almost give me the balls to say, look, if they can do it and they look quite good, maybe I could do that too. And I used the thing, well, it might help other people, but really I was terrified. And I thought that's going to give me the encouragement, the courage to do it. But once I did it, and I just kicked myself that I hadn't done it sooner, because the feeling you get, and I don't know if it's the same for you, of just not giving a shit what people think of you, and to be able to answer the door with no hair. And actually, it actually gets to the stage where I quite like the looks that people give me, because I just give a big smile and go, yeah. What do you think of this? I'm different, aren't I?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just, the freeing, that weight just off your shoulder.
And I think, I've done a lot of work on self-love and things like that. And the first step of loving yourself is just accepting yourself. And I think that's where we both have kind of noticed that in ourselves. Like, I had to accept, okay, cancer has happened or is happening, and this is how my body's going to change. I had to accept that. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, if that was going to happen, bad things that was going to happen was I was going to lose a breast and I was going to put on some weight, but not be, at the time I thought it was going to be cancer free, then that was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It was worth me doing that. But yeah, acceptance is the biggest and first step, I would say, to kind of doing this. And it's not easy. No one's sitting here pretending that it's so easy that we just woke up one day and suddenly was like, well, everything's fine. And I no longer give a crap what people think.
And I think that brings us to the point of why we want to do this and how it came about. And how much of a difference it's made to our own lives, not giving a fuck about other people and not caring about other people's opinion and not having to put on that public face, that we just wanted to empower other people and motivate other people to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like I said, there are so many people out there who I know living with my condition who are living behind closed doors and still terrified to talk about it, or look at themselves or tell other people. And it must be similar for many people who've gone through the trauma you've gone through, to have to cope with it and see themselves in that way.
I do think, though, for me, it wasn't until I had done a lot of work on this before, accepting myself where I was at. But when I got diagnosed with secondary breast cancer, that was when all of a sudden I had a timeline that we actually all have. I just am faced with mine. Like, none of us know how long we've got. By the way, don't ever say to me, anyone, about...
I know what you're going to say.
We're all going to get hit by a bus.
I know what you're going to say.
Hit by a bus.
This whole bloody bus analogy.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be the first to admit it. That's something that I would have rolled off my tongue.
Yeah.
Well, I could be hit by a bus tomorrow, Katie. Wipe your tears, love, just because you're going to die. And when you came out, tell them what you said.
Yeah, I mean, so I always say, yes, I could be hit by a bus, or we could all be hit by a bus, but I'm standing in a bus lane and the bus is coming towards me. And I think that's the difference that, I know about it. So I'm living the trauma of my own mortality. I'm grieving my life that I assumed I would have and I don't have. And that's not, everyone is going through that. So we can all get hit by a bus. Although the other thing someone said to me the other day is, do you actually know anyone that's been hit by a bus? And I was like, no, I actually don't. But yeah.
Yeah, there probably are people out there who have been hit by a bus.
Yeah, but
I know,
not many. And there's a lot of people
Final
that
Destination. I think somebody there was hit by a bus.
But yeah, there's a lot of women that are dying of metastatic breast cancer, and not many people are being hit by buses. So that was But yeah, so for me, having that timeline, I suddenly went, do you know what? I no longer have time for other people's crap. My life is my life, and I need to live it in a way that makes me happy. So that means I'm going to stop people pleasing. I'm going to stop putting other people's needs before my own. And I'm going to stop other people letting other people's words, opinions, influence me, because I actually know what's best for me. And if that means that I need to put a boundary in place, if that's that I need to change the way that I'm talking to myself, whatever it is, that's when I've then suddenly gone, actually, do you know what? I don't have time to give a fuck, to be honest.
And that it can be translated into so many areas of our lives, can't it? Not
absolutely.
Just a health diagnosis like we've had to deal with. It's so many of us are bowing down to other people's opinions, afraid to be themselves, afraid to eat the things they want to eat, afraid to dance oh my God, that was me. I never got up and danced because in my head I told myself I'm no good at dancing. So you would always find me around the edges of the dance floor because I was scared of what other people would think of my dancing.
Yeah, and it's just crazy, isn't it? But we all do that. We all put ourselves down and we all think, okay, we all have these thoughts that we can't do things. And I think to actually feel the joy of living life as your authentic self is so empowering and so amazing.
It really is.
So that's kind of what this podcast is going to be about, isn't it? Kind of going forward, we want to hear if you've got anything that you want us to talk about, then we can do that.
Or something that maybe you feel, if it has struck a chord with you and you feel like, this is something I'd like to be able to do, contact us. Send us a message, let us know. And like Katie said, what the discussions that you'd like to hear about it, because there must be other things going on out there that people are afraid to talk about, are afraid to be themselves, that we haven't even come across our paths.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've never had to deal with them.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing is, we hope to get some guests on that can come and chat to us about, things. We've got a couple of people lined up. But yeah, I think this is a really exciting project for us both, and I'm super excited that you wanted to come and join me. It's brilliant. I love it. I love the fact that you've asked.
Bless you. Yeah. And
okay, so I think that's episode 1 wrapped up. Lovely for you all to join us, and we hope you will join us next week.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.